Hi, my name's Chris, and I'm one of the developers of Salt. In this video, I'd like to walk you through the first phase of installing Salt. So, let's dive right in. The first thing you need to do, of course, is download Salt from saltapps.com. Once downloaded, expand the archive using your favorite program, and then you should see three files: salt.vmx, salt.vmdk, and a link to the full Salt installation guide. This video is only a quick overview of the first phase of the installation process, so check the guide out if you need more information. Salt is delivered as a virtual appliance that runs on VMware. If you don't have an existing VMware infrastructure, the easiest way to get started is to run it on VMware Player, which you can download for free from VMware's website. I've already done that and installed the player here on my computer. So let's launch it to begin. Select the salt.vmx file, then click play, and the Salt virtual machine will boot up. At this point, you should see a series of loading messages. You can ignore any warnings, and after a minute or so, excuse me while I speed this up for us, you will see a blue screen like this. The Salt VM is now running. Pretty simple, huh? Now, before we open up a web browser and begin configuring Salt, there are two important things to set within the virtual machine. Firstly, we must configure the networking. This step is vital to ensuring Salt can be accessed correctly and reliably by users on your network. Press the down arrow key to select Configure Network, and then press Return. At the prompt, enter a free static IP address on your network. It is important that Salt has a static IP address so that users can reliably access Salt. The default IP address shown, if any, is usually a dynamic address, not a static one, so it is not a good idea to accept it. If you're not sure about this, please contact your network administrator. So once you have entered a free static IP address, press Return. Enter an appropriate net mask for your network, or accept the default by just pressing Return without typing. The default given, if any, is usually correct. Then do the same for gateway and your DNS servers. When prompted to enter a hostname, you must first check whether the IP address you are using has an associated hostname on your network or not. If you have a Windows machine, open a command prompt and enter nslookup followed by the IP address. Or on Linux or any Unix-based system, enter host followed by the IP address. If the command returns with a hostname, enter it into the network configuration prompt. Otherwise, just press Return to accept the default, which is localhost.localDOM. Enter the details of your proxy server if you have one, and finally, confirm your settings. The Salt virtual machine will then reboot. Once you see the blue screen again, the second and final thing to configure in the virtual machine is the time zone. Press the down arrow key twice to select Set Time Zone, and then press Return. Select your continent, then region. Check that the proposed local time is correct and equal to the time where Salt and its main users will reside. Then confirm your settings and the Salt VM will reboot once more. When you see the blue screen again, type the first URL shown into a web browser, and we can then get started configuring the Salt platform. This is the Salt administration login screen. Enter the default password, which is just password, and then click Login. We'll then get taken to the Salt administration dashboard. The first thing we need to do is get a license for Salt. Click License in the menu at the left, then click the Get a License button. Register on the Salt website if you don't already have an account, and then download a license for your particular Salt ID. Select your license file and click Install. Read the end user agreement. Lucky I'm a fast reader. Choose whether to accept, and then Salt will then display your license details. Next, there are two things we need to configure under General in the menu at the left. Firstly, you must change the administrator password from the default. Choose something memorable and secure. The one I'm using here is probably a little bit too short. Secondly, Salt needs to send email from time to time. To do so, it needs the details of your SMTP server. If you don't have one, or you don't know what to enter, you can continue with the installation and complete this step later. Otherwise, just enter the server details and send yourself a test email to verify they are correct. Once you are happy with the settings, click Save. Finally, there is one more piece that the SALT platform requires before you can begin connecting it to your SAP systems, and that is the SAP Java connector, or SAP Java as it is known. From the SAP Service Marketplace website, go to the Downloads area, then navigate to the SAP Connectors section. Download the latest version of the SAP Java for 32-bit Linux systems. The file downloaded from SAP will either be a zip or a TGZ. If it is a zip, first expand it to get the TGZ file. Then, back at the SALT administration screen, click SAP Java on the menu at the left, select the TGZ file, and click Install. SALT will then display the SAP Java version installed. So, that's it for part 1. The SALT VM and platform is now deployed and running, you have a valid license, and the basic one-time configuration steps have been completed. Check out part 2 for details on connecting your SAP systems to SALT to begin monitoring your custom development. You can then start using the SALT apps to make your life working with SAP a little easier every day.